And here we go. Nope. Here we go. Sorry, everyone. Just messing around here with the apps. Hi, everyone. I am here with Russell Wright. We are going to do the post-World Open War discussion. So, Russell, let's start with the results. Spain wins again.
Yeah, they are very, very interesting in a couple of areas. So, the final group was Spain, not unexpected. You then had Germany in there, which I think was predicted as well.
Yeah,
And
after the
then
WTC, the Germans have really been on a roll. So, yeah.
yeah, very strong team. But then England, which was a surprise. It's a New England
Yep.
team, three players who I don't think have played in the WTC England team.
Nope.
And there was some dismissing of them, which I just thought was
But they
only
fought
happened because
brilliantly.
people
I mean,
didn't know the players.
they were. What was it you said before we started recording? They were one victory away from the win.
They in the final round they played Spain.
Yeah.
Sorry, the fifth round they played Spain, and they got a win and two draws against Spain, which is impressive in itself. And if they'd flipped one of those draws into a win, they would have tied with Spain on points.
Right.
So it would have come down to objectives, I think, and I would have to go off and check. But yeah, they were within one win of taking Spain down.
Yeah.
The other team that got through was Spain too, who you will know from your group. And
yes, we played against them.
I know there was a lot of chat about the Denmark-Scotland scenario, and I remember thinking at the time, do not write Spain too off, because they've got Manuel in there, one of the world's best players. They've got Granicus, he's a really good player, and Nacho knows what he's doing.
Yep.
So they were a strong team, and they showed that.
Yeah.
So in the end, they were the four teams.
Yeah.
And we ended up with Spain in first place, Spain 2 in second place, tied on points with England.
So double Spanish victory this year, which I guess they were really happy about here.
Oh, they were over the moon. Yeah. We saw at the award ceremony, and you can understand that completely. The other thing that was interesting, though, is it was the lowest winning score we've ever seen at WoW.
Yes.
Because all four top teams were taking points off of each other, which is great to see.
Yeah.
So as a result, we saw Spain on 17 points win it. I think Spain 2 and England were on 13 points, and Germany very close on 11.
Wow.
So there was no walkovers there at all. It was very toughly fought.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to watch an awful lot of those games, and they were very well played, a very high standard, nearly all of them close games.
Yeah.
So impressive stuff. I thought there was a general improvement as well in the playing standards.
Yeah.
I just don't think there's almost no easy games left anymore at WoW.
No, there isn't.
Of the 16 teams, there's maybe two that are a little bit weaker, but other than that, even the teams coming into ended up in Group 4 on day 2. Some of them were pretty strong and were beating better teams in individual games. So overall, the standard's really good. Congratulations to Spain. We then had our Group 2 winners, our Group 3 winners, Group 4. Group 2 was won by your compatriots, the Mixed Nuts team.
It was. So my team is no longer Denmark 1.
Well,
although I think Michael really wants to keep the name of Mixed Nuts, but he definitely earned his placement as the premier Danish team for this event.
They will be a first seed team next year.
Yeah, they will.
By winning Group 2. So that's very impressive performance by them.
Yep.
Poland won Group 3.
Yep.
Though I think that was a little bit of a consolation prize for them. They would have been hoping, I think, to be in Group 1.
Yeah.
Certainly not Group 3.
No.
But
a lot of us were unhappy about ending in Group 3. But,
tough games with Denmark.
Yep.
In that group. Yeah. So even Group 3 had some very tough games, as you can certify. And then Group 4 was won by a Pirates team that was pretty strong as well. So there were some good teams winning those groups. So we look forward to next year. Already we're starting to prepare. And one of the ways of doing that is by reviewing this year.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk a little bit about next year at the end here, but let's talk about it from a TO and event organizer's perspective. How did you feel like this year's tournament ran?
Felt like it was in many ways the smoothest yet, because the panic over version 3 we had last year, because last year the event was in October. It was a month after the release, I think. And we were doing a lot of work to get ready on rules and on army lists. This time around, we had a year, and that gave us a lot more time to prepare. It meant we call them the tap lists, so the tournament adjustment packs, which are basically their homebrew army lists for minor nations and a couple of adjustments for the larger nations.
Which,
they were more or less already
for the viewers at home. It significantly expands the amount of units you have. It changes up the national special rules for many of these nations. So it's really a different beast of army lists.
Yes. Yeah. But they were meant to be a holding pattern. The idea of them was that they would be replaced as the warlord armies of books appeared. But a couple of them have kept. So Germany's kept a couple of elements, as has USA, simply because player feedback has been they wanted to use taps still, because they're not happy with what Warlord's offering. We've got the Japan book coming out soon and the Commonwealth book following. Soviet books just come out, so hopefully we can retire most of the taps. I suspect instead of offering full army lists, we might offer a 2-3 page adjustment option. Which is what we did for, say,
maybe
America.
Just expand the unit options a bit, but
just rounding off one or two things, adding a couple of units whilst we wait for campaign books. But that went well. That's why we had really good variety of armies as well. We had 9 different armies represented at the tournament, which could easily have been just 4 or 5. But we got it to 9. And the other great thing is the tap was being used differently. So if you looked at Poland, you looked at Hungary, and you looked at Japan, the 3 most popular teams, armies that used the tap, they all had different builds. People doing different things with them, which is good to see. It shows you we weren't building a just one auto pick option. Particularly on Japan, there are 3 very different ways of playing them. All 3 were used, so that was good to see. But we learn, we move on. We probably go back and make a couple of adjustments to them for next year. Although hopefully, like armies of Japan, in theory, should replace the tap next year. So that makes things even easier. But the taps went well. They made list checking a bit more complicated because you obviously can't use Easy Army.
No.
And you can't use the Warlord app, although you can actually use the Warlord app because you can hard input on it and hard edit. But we had to spend some time on that and bounce lists around.
Especially the because the tournament had early, late, or middle war limitations. So that there was a lot of people being confused about that, including my team. I'm sorry about that.
We caught a few people out on that. I think the biggest issue we ran into there was Panzerfaust and dogs. Where Russian players wanted both, and we're like, no, Panzerfaust are late war. They don't really appear before the start of 1944. You just don't really see them. And the dogs, last use of dogs, I think, is Kursk. So they were never on the field at the same time. That we bounced a bit, and there's a little bit of confusion in some other areas. Just people not writing in their list properly, lumpy. Putting down a unit as regular when it was vet, and just lots of little minor mistakes. We might penalise next year. I did have a chat with TOs and say, look, the captains have only got 4 lists to check. If they send in an incorrect list next year, we might penalise them a point for it. Because that will make them focus.
Ouch.
Maybe. Well, we have 64 lists to check. Captains have 4. So I don't think it would hurt to wave that over them. We had 2 teams get penalised, actually, a point at the event for.
And now we're getting into the event
models.
itself. So the judging at the event, it was you as the TO, and then Gary as well.
And Gary Betts and Colin Betts, and then on the list checking, Phil Brewer. Once the lists he was a member of the British Lions team. We got their lists in first. Once all 4 of their lists were in, we released lists to Phil to check for us, which he did, and it meant our turnaround. The list got checked by 3 separate people. We found a lot of issues, and then we handed them over, and of course the players found a few more, which they always will. That's fine. It's one of the reasons we hand them over. And we maybe make the lists available, because there's a really nice eclectic mix of approaches there that people use, so people can see what's going on with those lists.
So At the event itself, did you feel like what was the role that you guys played out? We talked about that the most common thing was actually people calling you over the TO over to settle minor rules disputes instead of looking in the rulebook.
There was a bit of that, yeah. Probably 50% of what we did was just checking line of sight for people, and I'll deal with that first, Ben, and then we go on the rules. I do think there are some people who are pushing their luck on this now, and we were wondering about. There were some fairly obvious line of sight decisions that we took, where I'm of the view the player must have known his unit was visible or in cover or not in cover, and they were pushing their luck. I'm wondering whether they need to be given a warning or something if we think they are just looking to slow a game or they're just making stupid arguments. So we need to think about that, because there were a few people I think were repeatedly going over for, and that you could see their opponents exasperated because they're looking at the table and they're seeing what we're seeing.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yes, you can see
right.
it.
Yeah.
Some of them, obviously, some of them will be 50-50, and there are a few of those where you're like, wow, this is really close. And you make a judgment and you walk off.
Or there will be, like, because of the World Open War for people at home, it plays with true line of sight, which includes such things as ruins or forests, which is a little funky in most people's brains. So there will be like debates about how is this supposed to happen, right? And
the interesting thing there, though, if you read the rule book, it is a line of sight game. So the only real change to book is our terrain. There's two main changes. Number one, on ruins and dense terrain, the rule book basically says they're infinite. So you imagine that you have a column going up into the air forever. We don't do that. So you can see over a ruin. That will occasionally cause an issue, which I completely understand. Or you can see over a forest. And the other issue, of course, is our terrain is very much 3D. Yeah. We have a lot of hills. We have a lot of like overlooked positions, and so that environment does mean there are more incidences of where you need to work out where your line of sight is. But we always fix that. We get that done. And I just think it's an extra element to the game that I think makes the game better, if I'm honest. So that issue there. We issued our first ever yellow card to a player as well on a line of sight issue. We had a player arguing with referees, argued 3-4 times, and on the fourth time, I know Gary Betts was quite exasperated about it, so we just went up and gave him official warning and said, if you argue with a referee's decision again, you are disqualified. Because the referees are not there to argue with you. No. They're there to help you play your game. Yeah. And once the referee gives a decision, get on with it. Yeah. I don't want to argue him back because they're not going to change their mind. So there was that. The other issue, you're right, is minor rule book checks. And it is, the system's only been out for a year. I understand that. People make errors. But I think there are a few too many players who we were going over and they're asking us questions and we're like, have you checked this in your rule book yet? And they're kind of staring back and going, oh, no. Or I haven't got a rule book. It's like, come on, guys, that's not good enough. Yeah. If you're not sure on a rule, check it yourself. If you're still not sure, that's when you call a TO. Yeah. We're not there to make TO instant decisions for you. Though we don't mind when we have to, obviously. Yeah. And we were very busy. The TO team was very busy. So I think we will try and add an additional TO next year because I think we need another one to stand up for things.
One thing I will add to that is last year and the first year of World Open War, I felt like the captains were quite often asked rules questions by the teammates down the table. That happened, at least to me, and it did not happen at all this year. So I think there's at least more official lines of communication going on as the tournament gets older. People sort of start figuring out, well, I can't just ask my team captain what this rule means or whatever. I have to call a TO or figure it out myself. Which is nice because it doesn't disturb your game in the same way that it has previously.
It can, I've been to tournaments myself where because I'm relatively well known on the scene, as somebody who's been involved in play testing and whatnot, it's quite normal for me to play at a tournament and be interrupted 4 or 5 times in a game.
That happens all the time.
I don't mind because I'm a quick player anyway. So, but for some other people, it would distract them. Yeah, I understand that.
Right. Mm-hmm. So the event itself ran rather smoothly.
Very well.
Yeah. And that brings us to your plans for next year. What is going to happen next time?
The feedback has been super positive.
Yep.
So we were wondering whether the changes need to be made. Like, we've been thinking about chess clocks for a while.
Yeah.
And actually, we had everyone write down when their game finished on their results sheet. And out of 134 games, it was only 14 out of 134 didn't manage to get into round 5.
Wow. Yeah.
Which is not great, but it's only 14.
Yeah.
And then 33 were in round 5. And then the other 90, give or take 90, I say 9 back, and the other 90 were in turn 6 or finished. So time, 2.5 hours seems to be fine. It's not a problem. We only intervened in one game to speed up play, which is not bad. Only one game where it was needed. So that's good to know. So no changes there. Tables were very well received. So we will keep the tables as they are. We spent a lot of time setting them up.
Yep.
We spent an entire week getting them ready. Big thanks to my club members for helping on that as well at SSWG. A lot of people helped get tables ready and set. The tables, as you know, are all designed for the missions.
Yes.
And a lot of them had been pre-tested to try and make sure they were balanced. Especially the funkier missions.
Yeah, the weird and new ones. There were 3 missions that the players weren't told about in advance, and they all were like very tricky ones to play. But
yeah, we want to test play it. We don't want you coming along and all just playing meet and engagement.
Same old missions.
Yeah, because we could do that, and most tournaments do it. Each round, everyone plays the same mission, but that's just boring.
Yeah,
especially when you've got a team. When you've got a team of 3. And you've got 3 missions, 3 tables. You can go and pick the one you want to play, and so there will be tables that are completely wrong for you.
Yeah,
and so I wouldn't run that at an individual's mission. But when there's 3 of you and you can pick your missions, I'm not interested in teams then complaining, "Oh, we don't like this table." I'm like, well, you shouldn't have been on it then. And if you haven't got an army that works on the table, you didn't read the pack very well, did you?
Yeah,
because the pack made it clear this was happening.
There was a lot of metagaming going on between captains, and I know a few captains were quite were outthought by their opponents on what list do I put down to what mission, because I think that they're going to put that list with that player on that table for that mission, because I think that all of that was really fun.
It really adds an extra element.
It does.
Means it's more of a team event, and the captains are a lot more involved because they have to make these decisions. Not all captains did that. It was quite funny. I watched one. I won't say who, but one player. Oh, I'm going on this table. I'm going to do this, and I just said to him, I went, "Have you considered who you might be playing?" He went, no, don't care. I'm done. And I was like, "Oh my god, you're about to get steamrolled because you haven't thought through who's going to be on the other side." And that's exactly what happened. They got steamrolled. So that's because they didn't do what you're talking about. Think about, okay, well, we want this table, but what's going to be on it? Yeah. And you need to think about that as well.
You really need to think about that. So let's here at the end talk a little bit about like what we saw, the meta of team play here, because me and Russell had a little bit of a talk at the start here about that some teams had one sort of tactic going into this. I had also in my videos before the event sort of said more or less the same, that some teams were very focused on having lists that could do one type of mission specifically well, right? My team was one of those teams, and then some teams did the complete opposite, had 4 lists that could, all of them were like mixed bag, could do everything and could a little bit of it, so they weren't like massively disadvantaged whatever happened to them. The big, so as an example, Spain. That they clearly decided to go with basically 4 fairly well balanced lists, although they did switch them around. So if you watch Achilles, sometimes he played one list, sometimes he switched to another. So he was picking the tool for the mission, but they generally took 4 well balanced lists and went, you know what, we'll back ourselves to play on any table. And they made sure all the lists would work on any table. Although they did come a little bit unstuck occasionally with that approach. And they had fewer wins than they've ever had in one of our tournaments. So they just about won. So it was a close run thing. But they backed themselves and it came off. The
Opposite of that, also a finalist was Germany. The Germans had 4 different lists.
Yeah.
And what they were doing with their 4 different lists was they were actually mixing them amongst each other. So it wasn't a case of one player had 2 to pick from. There was that extra list, and different players would use it depending on the situation. And they had quite specialist lists. That worked really well. England did the same, very specialist lists.
Yes.
And a couple of interesting ones there. So specialist lists we saw the armour lists we expected, where people brought lots of armour. Yeah, that was to be expected. We saw all infantry lists, which are specialists in their own way. That includes Johnny Curran, who has that unique infiltrator list.
Yes.
That's going to disappear now because the Soviet Union book won't allow him to pick all those infiltrators. But it was a fascinating way of playing, and he got 5 wins and a draw using that approach, so it worked really well.
I think Michael Christensen, he had a very similar list, also very heavy on the infiltrators, and he had 5 wins and a loss, I believe, something like that. Yeah.
Where if you get the right mission and your opponent's not thinking about what they're going to face, then it's very, very tough to beat. Yeah. The other interesting thing we saw was people taking low dice lists to play kill point missions. That was hit and miss. Yeah, it was. It worked in some cases, but the big risk of those lists and where they lost is where there was a mission where you could flank. Yeah. Because a smart opponent goes, you've only got 7, 8, 9 dice. Yeah. I'm going to put half my units in flank. Once I get behind you, which I can, you're in big trouble. Yeah. So that was what we saw in terms of the performance of those lists. Yeah. We had some gun lines appear. They did reasonably well when they were on the right table, and you could avoid movement missions, of course, because you just don't pick them for that list.
And at the same time, you could pick tables that were sort of open enough for the gun line to work.
Yeah, there were options there. There were a few of our tables were more open than others deliberately, so that gave you that variation. So I was surprised more people didn't add gun lines, actually. The other thing that surprised me is we didn't see more artillery or air observers. We saw a few air observers. Yeah. Because we gave one of the Japanese options is you take an early war Japanese list or an early war German list. Yeah. You can get the same rule as the Americans, given how dominant they were in the air in that period of the war.
But there were only like 3 complete, very heavy air power lists, right? The Scots had brought 2, and I think, was it Wales who had one as well?
Wales had one as well, I think. The Welsh also they were the only people to take the French army from the official rules book, because that still had double tap artillery. And then they never used it, which I personally think is a big mistake.
That is a huge
on some
mistake.
Of those quarters missions. Yeah. There's missions are screaming out for you to just bring your artillery in. Yeah. And they didn't do it. And I think that was a mistake by them. They had a disappointing tournament, actually, it's fair to say. Yeah. But a few teams did. It was because we've seen a real levelling out, and lists are more important than they used to be. So I know you and me used to debate this and say the players probably about 80% of the game.
I think that has changed in V3. I think we have a lot more rock, paper, scissors going on. Although, of course, we're still seeing the good players end up in the good placements. Achilles, Manuel did really well in this tournament, as they will. But you face off on tables in missions or against opponents that you really can't beat sometimes.
Yeah. And the top players, no one won 6 games. Yeah. I think it's the first time we've seen that as well. Yeah. 5 wins and a draw is amazing. If you manage that, amazing. I don't look at the performance of people outside of Group 2. No. Sorry, outside Group 1 on day 2, because they're playing different opponents at a slightly lower level. So if you go and get 6 wins, but you were in Group 4 on day 2, I'm like, okay, so you got 6 wins, great. Yeah, and it is a team event anyway. So individual events, I'm only commenting because it does show us that there's a levelling off going on. Everyone's drawing or at least losing at least once, where they come up with the wrong match or the wrong mission. Yeah. So that's good, I think, for the health of the game. Yeah. It means you're going to see fewer people going on 5, 6, 7 win runs, because you've got that opportunity to disrupt them. And if you want to have fun at a tournament, you can be that disruptor. Go and take a list that, okay, you might say to yourself, I'm not going to win a tournament with this. But you know what? If someone brings that meta tank list, I am going to rip them to pieces. which is
I have a
what I've been
gazillion
doing.
Panzerfaust or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been doing it with airstrikes and heavy machine guns and just ripping tank lists to
Yeah.
pieces and then getting eaten alive myself by certain other lists, but having fun.
Yeah.
I know people who are taking, I say, Panzerfaust and dogs,
Mm.
and they've been killing tank lists, but then losing against more balanced lists.
Yeah.
But it is fun killing tank
It is
lists.
fun. It is great fun killing all those tanks. Yeah, yeah. I think potentially the reason why we didn't see that much observer lists is because they're sort of the same. They are also a disruptor list where, in the right matchups, in the right circumstance, you will, kill 12 units and the opponent will have very little they can do to about it, or it might do very little because the opponent has 36 flag shots and your airplanes can never actually enter the table. I mean, so they are a disruptor more than a surefire way to win, I think.
Oh, definitely. I think that's true of maybe something like light mortars as well. They're a disruptor.
Yeah.
But if you roll sixes, they're horrible. Like I know against Nimrods, I know you've experienced that. They're a wonderful way of dealing with Nimrods or anything that's open topped. And it also puts a big. I know when I've done it, when I've managed to pop a light mortar into an open top armored vehicle, and I'm sitting there laughing. It's great fun. Yeah, because the opponent's not so
it's
happy,
not as fun to run the Nimrods. I'll tell you that. Right.
We saw a lot of light mortars. Very few other mortars at the tournament. Yeah. A couple of gun lines, but other than that, if you don't have a gun line, people are not taking artillery. No. That's another thing we're seeing a lot. Armored vehicles.
And that includes, by the way, people. I think there was 1 or 0 multi-rocket launchers being used in this tournament. Was that right?
I think we saw 1. I think there was 1. Yeah, but we have some house rules that further weaken them as well. Like they can't target an empty building. Yeah. And they take an additional pin because the current. To be honest, the background to our rules and the Nebelwerfers are actually the FAQs change more often than the World Open War rules and the Nebelwerfer, because when they came out, we knew they were overpowered as written. Yeah. And then we saw these playing when the ranges changed and the number of pins changed and changed back again. Can they use spoilers? Can't they? There's been lots of changes by Warlord to try and fix it. Yeah. And we're kind of sitting here just looking at the fact that we haven't changed ours, and they should have just gone with what we were using. They'd have been fine. Yeah. Because it means, I don't want them completely removed from the game, but as you know, it can be quite boring playing someone when they've got 4 or 5 of them. Oh yeah. And they're just playing basically not roulette. They're playing traps.
In my team, we call it a roulette list because you're basically rolling to see if you can hit a 6.
Yeah, and it's a fair strategy.
Yeah, it is, but
it's not fun to play against.
Nah, I don't think so anyways. Right. Russell, thank you so much. What about what's next for you? And to round off this?
Well, just finishing off on WoW. So WoW 4 next year, it's October 24th, 25th. Yep. Same time as this year. We have already got about 14 of the teams asking for spots, so there's only a couple of spots left. If anyone out there has a national team they want to bring, please contact me and let me know. Yeah. Because time is already, and that's a year away, but I think those spots are going to be gone pretty quickly. You don't have to be 100% committed. We have that all the time. We had a couple of teams commit and then withdraw from this year's event. That's fine. We can manage it. But if you are interested, we need to know quite soon. Or there just won't be a spot if you leave it 3-4 months. So I'd say that. And then for me personally, I'm at Warfare in a couple of weeks' time, which is in Farnborough. I think they've got 60 sign-ups for it. And this is like the English Open.
Wow, that's a good size tournament.
List.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got a US Marine list. I don't care. People know. I've got a US Marine list I'm taking, using quite a lot of inexperienced US Marines. It's second division landing in Taloa. A lot of them had only had 8 weeks training.
Ouch.
So, yeah, quite scary to be dumped there at that point. They performed incredibly well considering. And so I've got a little list that's trying to enact that. So I had to lose a few units I like. So there's no recce jeeps or anything because they just weren't there. And I've even managed to squeeze in some LVTs, which you'll be pleased about.
Love the LVT.
Yeah.
Love it.
They're not good though, are they?
They're not good. Well, you know,
They look good.
it depends on the pack. I'll still, if the right pack comes up, I may still bring back my LVT at some point. Anywho,
I would say they make wonderful bits of terrain for cover. I won't say blown up.
that is
it's
true. That is true. Right, Russell, thank you so much, and thank you so much for a lovely weekend. It was really enjoyable, except the games, which I obviously didn't do well in. So
it's good seeing you, bud.
it was, and I will see you next time.
See you very soon. Bye bye.
Bye.